they were risking sanction and expense over something that wasn't quite worth it.
Okay, let's see. Now, after all these years, maybe by the time we actually wrap this up, it'll be close to 10 years in time. But what do you think should happen to the rock? It's literally in a garage that's used to store salt. It's covered by a tarp. After New York Times, NPR, CBS, all of these news entities covered it. It's covered by a tarp. What do you think should happen to it?
I think that the University of Kentucky should find some resources, perhaps and I realize in an era of diminishing resources for universities, that's a tough thing to say. My heart breaks to see what's happening to the funding of higher education in this state right now as we talk. But the Antiquities Department there that put so much pressure on us to do this should step up, and I'm not saying they should fund it, but maybe put together a package of funding or something, maybe a line item in a future state budget to run through the UK Antiquities Department. And I'd like to see the rock encased as a monument near the site where it was taken. I mean, just build a platform, put a glass cover around it and a plaque, and create a little monument there to what it is. And if it is indeed this historical artifact from 200 years ago, great. We made a little history ourselves 8 or 10 years ago, and you can tell the story of how we got it back. But it shouldn't be in a shed with salt. It should be near the banks of the river, encased properly with the little plaques where it should be.
So, of all of the cases you've worked in your life, before you were Attorney General and as Attorney General, was this one of the strangest cases?
This one was strange. Yeah, this was one of the strangest. Because I recall being at national AG conferences and talking to my colleagues, and what are you working on back in your state? And I'd be like, this daggone rock, you're not going to believe this thing's the bane of my existence. And I started telling stories about the rock, and people would just crack up. I mean, I had people, bent over laughing, telling the stories of, rock, paper, scissors, or having a festival every 6 months to exchange it, and the mayor chipping off a piece of it, and so it was certainly one of the strangest ones, and something you just would never anticipate you'd get into. You run to be Attorney General because you want to do right by people that have been harmed. You want to make your state a better place in which to live. You want a more just society. And you end up spending some time on a rock that got taken out of the Ohio River.
So, if you can recall, and if you can't, that's okay.
And and that was always the trick in this case, Steve, was that yes, you could be amused by it. You could be kind of, wow, I can't believe this is what I'm dealing with today. But you can't just gloss over that someone came into the Commonwealth of Kentucky, within our borders, took something that didn't belong to them. There are laws to protect against that. And while you can be amused at the whole situation, you can't be cavalier about enforcing the law. And that, for me, was always kind of something I had to remind myself of.
Gosh, yeah. So the trial went on for close to 3 years or so before it was kind of resolved?
Well, the legal actions were going for a while. My recollection is it got resolved more quickly than that. Okay. Sitting here, I can't pinpoint for you the exact date the rock was returned, but my recollection was it was about a year from our involvement in it. I want to say the rock was returned in 09 or 010. I don't know, but I could, my staff could tell you.
That's all right, yeah. Now, in your years as Attorney General, was there ever a case that involved the Ohio River or any other river in Kentucky that was similar to this?
Not because of the border implications. I can't recall one that really came where we had border issues like this involving rivers. We certainly had consumer protection advisories. We had an environmental division, and I learned along the way that if you're driving through western Kentucky, for example, and you see farm-raised catfish being advertised and they're cooking it, people can literally take the law allowed people to catch catfish from the Ohio River which might be more contaminated, place them in farm ponds, and then catch them later again and claim that they were farm raised. So I remember putting out some consumer advisories about that, and mercury levels potentially in catfish from the Ohio River. But in terms of something where we actually had someone put on a diving suit and go down and use a crane to lift up a however many 1,000-pound rock out of the Ohio River, we never. And this, this it's not. You got to understand that people are like, oh, he snuck over in the dead of night and took the rock. What's the rock weigh?
8 tons.
A ton, about 2,000 pounds. Okay, you don't put on a diving mask and fins and go pull it up. You've got to have a crane. Okay, so he came over with a diving outfit and a crane and took it. This was not a surreptitious operation. Really never had anything else like it.
Did you take the time to look at the rock at some point during the trial?
I saw pictures. And but I never, I never. First of all, when it was in Ohio, I wasn't about to get in a car and go with a Kentucky State Trooper over to Ohio and start asking the mayor of Portsmouth who chipped off a piece of it to let me see the rock. That really wasn't going to be, something I wanted to do as Attorney General. So I saw pictures and I kept up with it, but no, I haven't made the pilgrimage.
Let me think here. So when you hear the name Indian, when you hear Indian Head Rock now, thinking back on it after these years, what comes to mind?
That daggone rock. Oh no, that rock again is what comes to mind. I mean, when you called me and asked to do this, I thought, oh my gosh, really? We're going to do a documentary on the rock? And so I emailed a few of my former staffers and said, it still lives, the Rock of Ages. I'm here to rock you. I'm here to, all that sort of stuff. So we had little jokes going about the rock in the office. Again, that fine line between being amused that you're working on something like this, while also realizing you've got to respect the law and that the theft occurred within your jurisdiction.
The Bobby Carpenter in Greenup County would really like to get it moved. And if anything could come out of this project, we'd find a nice, happy home for it where people could appreciate it.
I think that would be a great goal. Bobby Carpenter's a good friend. He's been a good friend for, now, 20-some-odd years. I'm dismayed that it sits in a shed with the salt that's used on the roads in the wintertime. It needs to, like I said, nothing too grandiose, but it ought to be encased, preserved, placed on the banks of the Ohio River. Let it be a shrine or it'll be a monument, and people can come see it if they want to.
Give us a good closing comment, Jack, on the rock. One last one off the question sheet there.
Hey, Ohio, don't mess with Kentucky.
Perfect. We good?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Jack.